out of all the videos that I've done on my channel, this is the strangest subliminal message that I have seen. And what makes this so strange is that this is the first time on my channel that I'm covering something that I honestly don't know who put it there and why it's there. But one thing that is clear is it does connect to Watchtower. So let me get right into this because I have a lot to get into with this very odd subliminal message. So it starts with a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And this was based on a movie and later it was turned into a TV show. So this is Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 7. And in season 7, there are two main villains. And season 7 is the last season of the show. So these are the biggest villains that have ever been in this TV show. And the two villains that are in this season are a crazy evangelist preacher. And then the second villain is something called the First Evil. Right? So even that name is pretty evil because the first evil that gives an impression like what the very first evil that ever existed. Like this, I mean, this could be worse than Satan himself, right? And when you look at the first evil, I mean, to me, that doesn't that look like something you would find in like an Awake magazine? You know, one of those hidden demonic images, like when either you mirror the effect or something that's just basically subliminally in the background. Like that's what that looks like. It looks like some of the same ram horn heads, Baphomet, that you see planted in Watchtower. But anyway, so that's the second villain in this final season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? So you have the crazy evangelist preacher and something called the First Evil that looks like some sort of a Baphomet. So we're going to go to the very last episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, very last episode of season 7, last season. And it's titled Chosen, episode 22, season 7. So in the very last episode, Buffy squares off with this crazy evangelist preacher named Caleb. So they fight and she beats him. And then her friend Angel shows up. And then the two of them, after killing Caleb and leaving his dead body in this place, now they walk out of this place that she just killed this preacher guy. So notice what the place looks like that she walks out of.
If I lose, if this thing gets past Sunnydale, then it's days, maybe hours before the rest of the world goes. I need a second front, and I need you to run it.
Okay. That's one reason. What's the other?
There is no other.
Is it Spike? You're not telling me something. And his scent, I remember it pretty well.
You vampires. Didn't I ever tell you the whole smelling people thing's a little gross?
Is he your boyfriend?
Is that your...
So I guess the preview kind of gave it away of what I see. Right. So you've been watching my channel for a while. You already know I previewed this particular structure that we're looking at right now. So you already know what I'm getting from this, but let me just explain this. So I was just minding my own business. This is a TV show that I used to watch a long time ago. And of course, when I became a Jehovah's Witness, we're not allowed to watch shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So recently, or I wouldn't say recently, so this would be back maybe 7 months ago. This is when I had ended my channel back with season one, and I didn't even plan on ever coming back and doing videos again. So I was not doing any Watchtower videos. I was done with the XJW stuff. And I was just relaxing, minding my business. And I decided to watch the very last episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I just wanted to see how it ended. Right. So I didn't like binge watch the whole the whole series or anything like that. I just went directly to the last episode just to see how the show ended. So when I'm watching this is what I came across by accident. So I wasn't even, it's not like I had Watchtower in my mind. I was just minding my own business watching this. And after she killed this preacher guy, and then they walk out of a pyramid and a graveyard, to me, it was screaming out subliminally Charles Taze Russell's pyramid tomb. But you see, when it comes to subliminal messages, they have a way of putting thoughts in your head that aren't that obvious, right? So at first glance, it doesn't look like Charles Taze Russell's grave, but subliminally, like this is what I was getting. It was like it was screaming out Charles Taze Russell, and I didn't know why, right? Just from looking at it, that's what I got out of it. So for those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, like let me know in the comments before you continue to watch this, like what do you think when you look at that? Is it sending subliminal messages of Charles Taze Russell's grave, or is it just a pyramid-shaped tomb? Right. But anyway, so I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, well, why is it crying out to be Charles Taze Russell's grave? Why is that what's coming up in my head? So I had to ask myself, like, am I just being paranoid? Is it just a coincidence that she kills a preacher, an evil evangelist guy in this structure that looks like that? I mean, again, it could be a coincidence. Like at this point in homeboy language, I didn't know if I was tripping or not. Right? In homeboy language, like so am I tripping or am I onto something? Right? So the only way I'm gonna know like if I'm in homeboy language tripping is I'm gonna have to now watch the entire season seven, because I need to know who is this preacher guy that she killed and why are they walking out of Charles Taze Russell's tomb, which is what it looks like to me. So now let me show you what I found when I had to go back and watch the entire season to figure out like what the hell is going on. So the first point, I'm going to call it the first clue that this is a reference to Charles Taze Russell, is the very first thing is that number one, it looks like the same type of thing. So what I mean by that is that, okay, it doesn't look exactly like Charles Taze Russell's pyramid monument, but it looks like the same thing. It doesn't look like a regular tomb of anybody. It looks occulted. It looks strange. Something dark and eerie about this when I take a look at this. And of course, it's in a graveyard, right? So this is the very first thing. Just when I look at these side by side, to me, it's sending subliminal messages of Charles Taze Russell because it looks similar, like it's the same type of thing. And then clue number two, it has the gateway to hell doorway. Now, before anybody fact checks me, let me just explain this. I know that on Charles Taze Russell's grave that's not a doorway, that it looks like it's supposed to be like an open book, is what it looks like. But every time I've seen that on Charles Taze Russell's grave, to me, it looks like some sort of portal to hell. Like that just what I see it as. I see it as like the gateway to hell opening up. So that's just what I'm calling it. Don't fact check me on it. But it has that space right there that looks like it could be a door or doorway or something like that, even though that I know it's a book. Now, in the pyramid on the right, it has an actual doorway, but you see it's in the same exact spot as what we see on the left side. So again, when it comes to subliminal messages, remember that subliminal messages, they're not meant for it to look exactly what it's supposed to be sending to you, because the whole idea is that it's trying to send you hidden messages without you realizing it, but that your subconscious will pick up on it. So it doesn't have to be the exact same thing to be giving out those vibes. So what I'm just noticing is that when it's screaming out Charles Taze Russell's grave, just the fact of that doorway is in the same spot that we have that book on the left, which to me, I call it the gateway to hell portal. It's got the same, you could say, like structure to it, right? Like the same dimensions in a sense, even though that it's not exactly the same. And then the third clue is that it's in the graveyard, for God's sake. So what I mean by that is that the reason this was really screaming out Charles Taze Russell is because they're in a graveyard, right? So this structure is not something you see every day. So it really stood out to me because they're in a graveyard. She just gets done killing a preacher, left his preacher's body in this thing. It's shaped like Charles Taze Russell's grave. It looks similar, and it's in a graveyard, right? So to me, that's what's really crying out or screaming out to me, Charles Taze Russell grave, is that the thing's in a graveyard. So let's say that this took place in the woods, what you see on the right. It may have not even got my attention if they were in the woods and she came across this pyramid monument thing. But the fact that they're in a graveyard, it more so is sending those messages to me of Charles Taze Russell for some reason. So then again, in homeboy language, I had to ask myself, okay, am I tripping? So I looked up pyramid tombstones because I thought, okay, maybe this is more common than I realized. Maybe the Illuminati Masonic pyramid is like something that people normally get as tombstones. Like I don't know. So I looked up pyramid monuments, and when I looked up these pyramid tombs, what you see on the bottom is that these other normal tombs of normal people, they seem to be kind of polished normal. They don't look what you see at the top of the screen, right? Charles Taze Russell's tomb or the one in Buffy, like it looks like something different. So, and even if you look on the bottom left, there's one that even has like Illuminati symbolism on it, but even that one still looks like just a normal everyday tomb. But the two you see at the top, they don't look the same. They have a different look to them. So again, looking at these two things side by side, it's strange looking, and again, it's in a graveyard of all places. So yeah, look, to me, it's saying Charles Taze Russell. Now, however, this is just the surface level stuff, right? The way that it looks and the fact that it's in a graveyard. So to know if I'm just seeing things, I had to actually go and watch the entire season to figure more things out, because if this is just nothing, if it's just like a weird coincidence and these things look similar and has nothing to do with Charles Taze Russell, then when I look into the whole season, it's going to be a dead end. But what I found is that the more that I looked into this whole season and learned about this Caleb character, this evangelist preacher, and this pyramid structure, there became more evidence to me that it is making a dark reference to Charles Taze Russell. So let me go on to where it gets a little bit deeper. So notice this scene where they're looking at some sort of a clue on where this pyramid structure may be found. So this is taking place before they actually found this pyramid structure.
Dawn, what do you see?
What am I looking for?
On the back wall. Knot hole.
That's not an knot hole.
Amanda, would you go down to the basement and get Spike?
Maybe this will help. If this does bring us closer to Caleb.
So notice what they're looking for, as she said, if this brings us closer to Caleb, right? So they're looking for this evangelist preacher guy. And when he gave her that paper with the magnifying glass to look at some sort of clue, notice the only reason they showed us that scene was just to show us the slanted cross and crown, right? So that got my attention. Like that's the only thing they wanted to show us in that one particular scene. So let me play it again and just notice how he gives her this paper to look for a clue with a magnifying glass, but they only emphasize one thing.
Dawn, what do you see?
What am I looking for?
On the back wall. Knot hole.
That's not a knothole.
So the only clue that they're showing us on how to find this guy Caleb, where he's at, is the Masonic slanted cross and crown. Right? That's the only thing that they're showing us. Now, as you can see, the one in Buffy on the left, that doesn't actually have the crown, but again, remember when it comes to subliminal messages, that it's not meant to give you the exact image of what they want to put in your head. It's meant just to have your subliminal catch on to something, right? So this is why subliminal messages are never going to be completely outright, because if it's too obvious, you're going to see it with your conscious mind and reject it. So the whole idea is to put these images in your head without realizing it is there. So while I don't see the crown, what I do see is the cross is the same way. And as this symbol usually has like what you could call rays of light around it, you do see that spotting around it on the left, like indicating the same thing. So why is this the only symbol that they're showing us in connection to trying to find this preacher guy, right? This evangelist preacher. Now, one thing I want to clarify too before I move on with this cross and crown symbol is that there seems to be confusion on what this symbol actually is, as far as it being Masonic. So what you see on the left side is the Knights Templar symbol. So the Knights Templar symbol is a straightforward cross that is shaped like that. That is Knights Templar. When you see the cross slanted with the crown around it like that, that is a Masonic version of Knights Templar. Right? So just to be clear, like that symbol, it is Masonic, and some people get confused as far as that and the Knights Templar. So the cross and crown slanted is a Masonic order of the Knights Templar. So this is where the puzzle pieces start to come together more, so that this is a reference to Charles Taze Russell. So clue number 4, the Masonic cross and crown is a clue to the location of this pyramid. So this symbol is what they just showed us as a clue looking for this pyramid, which happens to be the same symbol that is actually on Charles Taze Russell's pyramid. So going back to the very beginning, when I first showed this to you, yeah, it looked like maybe I was tripping, maybe I was just being paranoid, and even I didn't know exactly why I was getting such strong vibes from Charles Taze Russell. But you see, when something is a subliminal message, and when something is giving off vibes very strongly of something that is not quite what it looks like, but you're getting strong vibes that are making you think something else, you see, if it is a subliminal message, then when you deconstruct it, you're going to find other things leading to what the subliminal message is that they're trying to put into you. Now, if it's not a subliminal message, then it's going to be dead, and there's not going to be any connection to maybe what you thought they were trying to subliminally put in your mind. But what I'm seeing is that the more that I look into this, I'm seeing things that are now making sense to why I'm getting Charles Taze Russell subliminally when I look at this thing. So now let's go to clue number 5. So if you go to episode 21 of season 7, So notice when Buffy finally finds this pyramid tomb that's in a graveyard of all places, take a close look as she walks into this thing and let me know if you see any symbolism that's connected to the days of Charles Taze Russell. So before I say anything, do you spot anything that is kind of subliminally standing out in connection to Charles Taze Russell in the old days of Watchtower? The winged sun disk. Now, what's interesting about this winged sun disk is that if you notice the rest of the pyramid, it's all the same color. It's kind of like a worn out gray is what it looks like. Similar to Charles Taze Russell's tomb, that it's all basically gray and kind of like worn out. But why is just the winged sun disk in color? Right. Now keep in mind, if there's nothing subliminal going on, like why would they make a detail to put just that one thing in color when everything else is like dark and gray and shaded? Why is only that one little detail in color? We see that's the way subliminal messages work. They stand out in different ways. And in this situation, what they're banking on is that your subconscious is going to pick up on that because it's a different color. Right. So that's why only that part of the pyramid is in colors, that so your subconscious picks up on it. So this brings us into clue number 5. They swapped out the cross and crown for the winged sun disk. And again, as you can look at Charles Taze Russell's grave, that's what I'm saying. You notice the cross and crown on his grave, it's not in color. It's because the whole thing is just one color that's like worn out. But they made that in color on the right side because that is just a subliminal way that they get into your conscious by making that one part in color so it stands out. Now, the reason that this is significant is because these two symbols you could say are interchangeable according to the old days of Charles Taze Russell. The cross and crown was put in their old literature, and so was the winged sun disk. These are both symbols that are Masonic. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So the winged sun disk itself is not Masonic in origin, but it is used also in Masonry, the winged sun disk, even though that it's Egyptian in nature. But both of these symbols are, you could say, are interchangeable as far as subliminal messages connected to Watchtower, because Charles Taze Russell and Rutherford both use both of these symbols in their old literature. So when it comes to this pyramid being subliminal to reference of Charles Taze Russell, what they basically did was they swapped out the cross and crown for the winged sun disk. Notice that the winged sun disk on the Buffy pyramid, it's in the exact same spot that the cross and crown is on Charles Taze Russell's pyramid. Right? And both of these symbols, again, are interchangeable to subliminal messages connected to Watchtower. And remember that the cross and crown, the slanted cross and crown, is the symbol that led Buffy and her team to find the location of this pyramid that's in a graveyard, for God's sake, that has the same shape as Charles Taze Russell's grave, that has the door, the gateway to the hell doorway in the same spot. So the more that we look at this, to me, it becomes less likely that this is just a weird coincidence, because what are the odds that you're starting to come across the same exact symbols as Watchtower that are actually on Charles Taze Russell's grave? And again, this thing, it's in a graveyard where she just buried a preacher in the same place Charles Taze Russell is buried, under a pyramid. So now let's take a look at clue number 7.
That's not it.
I have reference to the Sword of Moskva, the Reaper of the Tigris. I mean, how are we supposed to narrow this down? The little stop.
A hooey?
Sort of gulpy noise. No, I'm remembering something here. Hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs stand for sets of consonants, as you know.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, M plus the glottal stop is represented by a picture that's commonly thought to symbolize a sickle or a scythe. It's in thousands of carvings from Egypt throughout the ancient world.
Carvings like you'd have on a pagan temple?
Go back. See what else we can find out about this temple. The scythe is a symbol of death. Let's see where these pagans buried their dead.
Xander!
Let's see where these pagans bury their dead. Clue number 6. So as they're looking for this possibly pagan tomb that they're looking for, one of the clues that they're looking at to find this is, where would the pagans bury their dead? So I don't know if you see where I'm going with this or not, but let me give you a multiple choice quiz. Because he's asking, when he's looking how to try to find this pyramid, is, well, let's see where the pagans bury their dead, right? Because wherever the pagans bury their dead is where they think they're going to find this pyramid at. So where do the pagans bury their dead? So this is going to be a multiple choice quiz. And is it A, in a casket underground? Is that where the pagan bury their dead? Is it B, cremated ashes in an urn? Is that where the pagan bury their dead? Or is it C, an Illuminati Masonic pyramid? Is that where the pagan bury their dead? So here we have another reference to Charles Taze Russell. Now, again, if this was the only reference to Charles Taze Russell, it wouldn't be a reference to Charles Taze Russell. But if you see all the clues that are lining up to the same place, this is another clue of connection to Charles Taze Russell, because where do the pagans bury their dead? Well, where did the Watchtower bury Charles Taze Russell, the founder of the religion? They buried him in a what? A Masonic pyramid, a Masonic Illuminati pyramid. You see, to real Christians, Charles Taze Russell is a pagan, right? You see, when we were JWs, they told us that everybody else was pagan, but the real pagans are Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's where the pagans bury their dead, and Masonic pyramid. But the reference is that knowing where the pagans bury their dead is going to help them find the location of this pyramid that they're looking for. And then clue number 7, the evil evangelist preacher. Right, so everything else that I just talked about was just the pyramid structure itself. I didn't even really get into this guy Caleb, who happens to be an evangelist preacher like Charles Taze Russell. So who is this evil evangelist preacher? Well, let's just take a quick scene at how evil this preacher is.
Well, that was, You all right?
Thank you. Thank God you were there.
Well, let's not give him credit for everything. No, I'm funning you. I don't believe in coincidence. I also don't believe young girls should be out in the woods late at night. Should be tucked in bed.
Sure was.
I expect you do with that. Look, I don't mean to pry, but those boys, they looked like... Well, you didn't happen to fall in with devil worshippers, did you? No, I'm sorry. You look like you've been traveling a while. I didn't think that. Is there someplace you'd like me to drop you? You headed someplace?
Sunnydale.
I'm going there myself. I ain't never been, but I expect we could find a police station or...
I just need to get to Ravello Drive. But thanks. Father...
Call me Caleb. Everyone's nobody's daddy.
Shannon.
Well, Shannon, you feel like telling me why those freaky toes were after you?
I'm not sure.
Oh, do you ever think that maybe they were chasing you because you were a whore?
What?
No, I know what you're thinking. Crazy preacher man spouting off at the mouth about whore Babylon or some such. That ain't me. I'm not here to lecture you. I mean, what's the point? The words just curdle in your ears. Wouldn't take in a thing. Head filled with so much filth that ain't no room for words of truth. Well, you know what you are, Shannon? Dirty.
What? I'm not. What?
No. There's no blame here. You were born dirty. Born without a soul. Born with that gaping maw wants to open up, suck out a man's marrow. Makes me puke think too hard on it. Yeah, that there door's problematical. I don't know as I could recommend stepping out at this speed anyway. You like as much to tumble some. And of course there's my boys back there. They hate to miss a mark.
Your boys.
Well, they ain't exactly my blue-eyed boys, but they're hard workers. And they don't truck with Satan. That was just me having fun. Satan is a little man. And I don't like backseat drivers.
Please. Don't hurt me.
Well, now, is this the part where you offer to do anything? Because I tried to make it clear to you. You got nothing. I want to explore. Oh, yeah!
Well, I would say he's pretty evil. And the way he was talking to that young girl kind of makes me think of that circuit overseer that's being charged and the governing body's being sued for $100 million or whatever the hell is going on with that. Right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I got that distasteful taste of sexual assault as this guy, this preacher Caleb, was talking to this girl. Now, I'm not saying that Watchtower is on that level of evil, but you know what? I think they actually are, to be honest. And as I mentioned earlier, so he's connected with this other villain called the First Evil, which is this demonic spirit that is, I don't know if it's controlling him or exactly what it is exactly, but anyway, if you look at this first evil spirit that is connecting with the preacher, as I said in the beginning of this video, that it kind of looks like something that you would see hidden in a Watchtower magazine. But this is where Caleb is getting his evil from, is something that looks kind of like a Baphomet or something like that. And what that kind of reminds me of is the ram horn demon face and the Live Forever in Paradise book on page 244. And then, of course, you have the hidden Baphomet subliminally in the Bully sweater in the Caleb and Sophia cartoon. And then you got the True Love movie where they're throwing up the devil horn sign. And then, of course, the demon head under the governing body table that's showing you where the governing body gets their direction from a demon face blowing smoke up their brains. And a classic one is in the Revelation book, when one of Jesus' co-rulers has a demonic hand, right? Like a claw, like Michael Jackson Thriller, like a straight up claw. You can't draw that by accident, right? So that there's no other reference to them serving demons. So this Caleb guy, he's getting his evil direction from a Baphomet looking creature that looks similar to some of the same demonic stuff that we know is guiding Charles Taze Russell and all the Watchtower leaders. So now let's look at the final fight between Buffy and this Caleb creature inside the Masonic pyramid tomb.
Once, and I'm here to tell you.
Are you ready to finish this, bitch?
Okay. How many times do I have to kill you? Ballpark figure?
You understand nothing. You think you have power over me? Stupid girl. You'll never stop me. You don't have the power.
Who does nowadays?
So that's the end of this Caleb guy. So notice that he's dead in the pyramid, right? That's where his dead body lays, is now in the Masonic pyramid or Illuminati pyramid, whatever you want to call it. So both of these preachers are dead under Masonic pyramid with these same sort of Masonic symbols in exact same spot in a graveyard. So to me personally, I believe this is definitely a reference to Charles Taze Russell that was planted in this TV show. And just to recap now, every reason that I think this is connection to Charles Taze Russell, let's go back to the beginning. So number one, it looks like the same type of thing. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks like we're looking at pretty much the same type of thing, some sort of occult pyramid and a graveyard with some Masonic symbols on it. Number two, the gateway of hell doorway. Now, again, don't fact check me. I know that's not necessarily a door on the left, but to me, that's what I get when I look at that. It's like the gateway of hell opening up. But anyway, you got a door structure in the same spot, which when it comes to subliminal messages, it's giving your subconscious the same, you could say, dimensions as Charles Taze Russell's pyramid tomb. Point number three, it's in a graveyard, for God's sake. And this is the main reason why I think when I first seen this, it was screaming out Charles Taze Russell subliminally, because it's in a graveyard, right? If it was in the woods or something, it may not have the same effect, but it's in a graveyard, for God's sakes. Number four, the Masonic cross and crown is a clue to the location of this pyramid. So the only clue they wanted to really show in that quick scene on where they get to find this pyramid at is the same symbol that's on Charles Taze Russell's grave, the same Masonic cross and crown. That's the only symbol they had to show in that one scene. And then they swapped out the cross and crown for the winged sun disc in the exact same spot. And as I said earlier, that when you're dealing with subliminal messages that go back to the early days of Charles Taze Russell and Rutherford, that these two symbols are interchangeable because they both have references to the old Watchtower publications, the cross and crown and a winged sun disc. And then point number six, let's see where the pagans bury their dead. Again, this one is a little bit more subtle, but where do the pagans bury their dead? And an Illuminati Masonic pyramid in a graveyard with Masonic symbols on it, or Illuminati symbols on it, whatever you want to call it. And then point number seven is the fact that they're looking for this evangelist preacher guy who Buffy fights inside the pyramid and kills him in the pyramid and leaves his dead body in the pyramid. And he happens to be an evangelist preacher that's controlled by a Baphomet-looking creature. It just happens to be a preacher, and this is where they bury him with the same symbols as Charles Taze Russell's grave. So anyway, I don't think that all those things are by chance. Now, as a bonus clue, and I'm calling this a bonus clue because this is something that it connects, but I can't say this is any sort of evidence to say that has anything to do with Charles Taze Russell, but I felt it was important enough to mention this because I think that this also is significant And I don't think that the odds of this are possible. So what I'm calling the bonus clue is that if you've been watching my channel from the beginning, then you might have caught on already that this is the second time that we're seeing the same actress for the same reason and connection to Watchtower. And the odds of that are not very likely, that there's nothing that there's no significance to that. So there's a video on my page titled Watchtower Caught Secretly Using Horror Images. Now there's a part 1 and part 2, but part 1 is the one I want you to focus on. So in that video, Watchtower Caught Secretly Using Horror Movie Images, you can see that Sarah Michelle Gellar is right on the thumbnail. And in this video, I broke down how the Watchtower, when making their drama about Lot's wife, that they designed Lot's wife after a Japanese horror character in the movie called The Grudge and Ring movies, right? 2 different movies. Now, one of them, The Grudge, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it. And Watchtower, not only did they design Lot's wife after the Japanese ghost in this movie, but they even used some of the same sound effects. They even had some of the same scenes, very subtly, but even some of the same scenes. Like, for example, there's a scene where, as Sarah Michelle Gellar is walking past the mirror, she sees the Japanese ghost in the mirror. And there's another scene where they emphasize an eyeball, and there's a face in the eyeball if you look close enough. And both the JW ripoff and the Grudge and Ring movies. So, to me, I don't think that this is just a coincidence, because so you literally have millions of horror movies, right? Well, like worldwide, you have millions of horror movies. And then you have hundreds of thousands of actresses in horror movies. So, what are the odds that out of all the millions of horror movies and all the actresses in these movies, that twice the same actress is in a movie / TV show that has to do with something of evil and horror connected to the Watchtower organization? Right? It's very weird that I'm coming across the same actress for the same exact reason. And she has no, from what I understand, no affiliation with Watchtower or anything like that. Right? So it's very odd that I'm seeing her again. So now I'm not saying that she's part of anything evil. So it could even be something synchronistic with even like God, for example. Like maybe this is like a synchronistic way that God is revealing that what I'm showing, that I'm on the right track, that yes, this pyramid is a reference to Charles Taze Russell, just like the Watchtower did copy the Grudge movie. Like, I don't know if it's something synchronistic like that, like it could be on a divine level, or it could be deliberate, but it doesn't seem likely to have this type of synchronicity that's just by chance. Like this, I'm coming across the same actress for the same exact reason, with subliminal horror images connected to the Watchtower organization, right? It just doesn't seem likely that that's a coincidence. I'm not even sure if statistically it's possible that that's just by chance. So the reason I said in the beginning of this video that this is the strangest subliminal message that I've ever uncovered on my channel is because this is kind of where it gets weird, as far as trying to figure out, why was this put here, and who did it, and why did they do it? So let me explain why this kind of confuses me. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it was from 1997 to 2003. So the last episode was in 2003, the one with the Illuminati Masonic pyramid. So first off is that this is not a TV show that Jehovah's Witnesses are allowed to watch. So no Jehovah's Witnesses are watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's always going to be some witnesses that are considered spiritually weak that may watch stuff like this, but in general, the average Jehovah's Witnesses is not going to watch something like this. So they wouldn't be, this would not be put in this TV show for Jehovah's Witnesses subliminally. Secondly, even for XJWs. So the average XJW, from what I understand, in 2003, when this episode first came out, I don't know how many XJWs even knew anything about Charles Taze Russell having a pyramid tomb like that, because back in 2003, I don't think, like, YouTube didn't exist back then. I don't think, YouTube didn't exist back then. So back in 2003, how many XJWs would have even known about Charles Taze Russell grave? Because the internet itself wasn't that big back in 2003. So I don't think this has anything to do with XJWs either. And then also the fact that, unlike other subliminal messages that I covered on my channel, is that this is not done by Watchtower. This has nothing to do with Watchtower. Now, the last time that I came across Sarah Michelle Gellar, it was the Watchtower deciding to take a movie that she was in and basing the character of Lot's wife on a Japanese ghost in that particular movie. So that was just Watchtower stealing these ideas from the Grudge and Ring movies. But then that was them doing it to put in their own movies to subliminally program their own audience with that, their own Jehovah's Witnesses. So in this case, you're not dealing with Watchtower, and there's no Jehovah's Witnesses that are going to be watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there's also how many XJWs are going to be aware of Charles Taze Russell's tomb back in 2003. Which makes this whole thing kind of weird as far as, like, why is this even there? Like, why was this put in this TV show? So this is just my conclusion on what I think. So I do think that it's definitely a reference to Charles Taze Russell. I think there's too many things that connect to it. And when I first put my eyes on this thing, subliminally, that's what it was saying to me was Charles Taze Russell's grave. So the more that I looked into it, all the dots connected that it's a reference to Charles Taze Russell. But seeing how it was not done by Watchtower, and it is not done for Jehovah's Witnesses to see this, and no, as far as I'm concerned, most of the XJWs in 2003 weren't really aware of Charles Taze Russell's grave. So this is what I think. I think that somebody in Hollywood who was involved in this TV show, I think that people in Hollywood that know that the Watchtower Society is a very dark, demonic, evil organization, I think this was planted there as a subliminal message, or maybe not even a subliminal message, maybe more of a clue of putting out there that Charles Taze Russell and his religion is evil. And that entity that Caleb the preacher was working with, the first evil that looks like a Baphomet, I think this is somebody that put this in this TV show, revealing that the Watchtower organization is evil. That's what I think. I don't think that this has anything to do with Jehovah's Witnesses or XJWs. It's for other people in Hollywood and in the know who maybe know about Charles Taze Russell or know about this pyramid monument, and I think that's why it was put there. So, like, Hollywood does speak in a certain language, right? So this is not conspiracy. That it's a known fact that in Hollywood TV and movies, they're always speaking in terms of codes, languages, and subliminal messages of all types of stuff, right? Hollywood has a way of always telling you the truth in movies and putting clues out there. So this is not really a stretch to think that someone who's not connected with Watchtower would have the idea of putting some references to Charles Taze Russell being this evil evangelist preacher that's controlled by a Baphomet creature. That's what I think is going on. It's a reference. And when they made this Caleb character, they could have had Watchtower in mind. They could have had this idea of, hey, let's build a character off of the leader of the Watchtower Society that was buried in a Masonic pyramid in a graveyard. And they could have put all these symbols in there, making references to that. But that's what I think. I think it's a hidden message for Hollywood, for those in the know, that the Watchtower organization is an evil organization. But that's just my theory on why it's in there. Maybe I'm completely wrong on why they did it. Maybe they did it for eventually Jehovah's Witnesses or XJWs to eventually figure out the thing with Charles Taze Russell's grave. I mean, that's a possibility too. But all that I do know is that I don't think you're going to have this many connections and coincidences that are all leading to Charles Taze Russell's grave. And the fact that the guy's a preacher. I don't think so. So to me, it's definitely reference to Watchtower. Why it's there, who put it there, I can't say, but that's what I think that it is. So let me know in the comments if you think I'm stretching with this one, or let me know if when you look at that pyramid thing, are you getting the same vibes that I'm getting, that this is a reference to Charles Taze Russell? But again, Hollywood always speaks in a language like this. So this is not the first time that there's been some sort of evil reference to Watchtower in Hollywood. And the overall message that I get from putting all this together is that the Watchtower organization is a very evil organization. Not the people in it. The people in it are brainwashed servants. They don't know who they're serving. But I think that this is just making a reference that Charles Taze Russell is evil and the religion is evil. And they are serving a Baphomet type of creature. I mean, how many times do they have to put these demonic faces and demonic hands and hidden Baphomet images in the background to make it clear that they serve the Baphomet or something far worse than the Baphomet? Next video that I have that's part of my featured videos, that is going to be the one that is actually going to show how dangerous it is if you still have family members in this religion. The last video that I'm going to make for this season, featured video 404, it's going to put urgency on wanting to get your friends and family members out of this religion before it will cost them their life.